Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Taylor Comblusier, a mining analyst here at Red Cloud Securities. Today's webinar features CAVU Energy Metals, which is a mineral exploration company focused on its two copper porphyry projects in Western Canada. The company is currently drilling on the Hopper project in the Yukon, and the program is planned to follow up on great results from the 2021 campaign at the Copper Castle Skarn zone, as well as the main porphyry zone. Additionally, the company recently acquired the Star Copper Gold Porphyry Project in the Golden Triangle in British Columbia, where mineralization is known to extend to 700 meters below surface and remains open at depth. Today, I have with me on the webinar Dr. Jaap Verbaas, who's the CEO at CAVU Energy Metals. The format of today's webinar will be comprised of two parts. In the first part, Jaap will provide an update on CAVU, including the work programs underway and planned for this year at its two core projects and what investors have to look forward to in the near term with that. And then in the second part of the webinar, we'll take your questions live. So please send in the questions using the chat box and we'll get to as many as we can. And I'll note that you can type your questions in at any point throughout the presentation. To start, we'll handle the disclosures and then get into the presentation. So for CAVU Energy Metals, there may be some forward-looking statements made on this call. I would direct listeners to the cautionary note on page 2 of the CAVU corporate presentation located on the company's website. For Red Cloud Securities Inc., I would highlight that this webinar is for information purposes only and should not be considered a solicitation to purchase or sell securities or a recommendation to buy or sell securities. And we note that this call does not take into account the particular situation or needs of individual investors. Participants should rely on their own investigations and seek their own professional advice before investment. Please see our most recent research located on our website for CAVU-specific disclosures. So with that out of the way, I'll hand it over to Jaap to update you on CAVU and what you have to look forward to with the company.
Thanks, Taylor. Okay, so CAVU Energy Metals, we are a junior porphyry copper explorer, and we're focused on Western Canada. Our forward-looking statements, as Taylor mentioned, can be found here. They're also on our website in the general presentation. CAVU Energy Metals, we recently changed our name from CAVU Mining to CAVU Energy Metals because we felt that, we feel that copper is one of the most important metals in the energy transition that is coming and now accelerating. And so that name relates to that energy transition. We remain focused on our porphyry copper projects, and there's no change in our business other than that the name has changed. We listed in February 2020. We currently have 30 million shares outstanding, 52 million fully diluted, and we founded the company based on what we believe are the best macro fundamentals for any metal out there, and that is decades of underinvestment in the supply of copper and now accelerating energy transition demand. Our two projects are the Hopper and the Star project. That's the more developed project. We also have one early stage project that is further to the south, where we are slowly working towards building a target that's called Canal Copper. But I'll be talking about the Hopper and Star project in this presentation. Why focus on Western Canada? Canada exported $7.3 billion worth of copper in 2020, and most of that copper comes from Western Canada. Most of that copper from Western Canada comes from porphyry deposits, which are low-grade bulk tonnage deposit. And we have two multi-target projects, multi-target porphyry projects, one in Yukon, southern Yukon, and one in the Golden Triangle in BC. Excuse me. So those, clearly this is southern Yukon, and here we are just northwest of Telegraph Creek. Drilling is currently in progress on the Hopper claim, and the Star project has recently been acquired. So I want to tell you a little bit more about the Star project before I go into our current operations, because many of you will not be as familiar with it as with our Hopper project. The Star project is, as I said, a multi-target porphyry project that is fully permitted for drilling until 2026. It's located northwest of Telegraph Creek, has a fixed wing airstrip on on the claims and a road and trail network towards the drill sites and the main target. There is also a camp on site that can service up to 20 people. The Star is 150 kilometers from the Red Chris, Shaft Creek, and Galore Creek deposits in the Golden Triangle, and as I said, in the Golden Triangle of BC. And it is a similar copper and gold alkalic porphyry project. Of course, it is less developed. There is no resource on the Star project yet. Majors are active in the surrounding area. So Teck Resources owns Shaft Creek. Newcrest Mining owns Red Chris. Newmont and Teck own Galore Creek 50-50. So these porphyry projects are one of the better known deposits in Western Canada. The main Star target has been drilled down to a depth of 700 meters. It contains a supergene-enriched zone, which is preserved. That has yielded intercepts such as this one, 106.98 meters at 1.02% copper equivalent from 12.02, so that's essentially past the overburden. And further down, the primary mineralization has yielded intercepts such as 288 meters at 0.67% copper equivalent from 123 meters. This section here shows the supergene enriched zone very well in the top here. The system is on a slight tilt, and so the lower drill holes here, you see less mineralization, but as you can see, there's other drill holes that are out of section here. So this is mainly to show you that supergene enriched zone, which is somewhat uncommon in this area of BC. So it's a proven porphyry system with great intercepts, and it hasn't been worked for a while here. It also still has exploration potential. Geophysics, geological mapping, and geochemistry. The geochemistry shown here, they all point towards more porphyry potential. So this is the main Star target. You can see my cursor. This is the main Star target. This is where you see the drill collars. But these clusters of soil highs, which also overlap with known intrusions from geological mapping and overlap with magnetic highs from geophysical surveys. Those are true blue sky potential of this claim. So we believe this represents a cluster of porphyry systems of which only one has been drilled. Again, here, Copper Creek and Pyrrhotite Creek contain good copper mineralization known from trenching, grab sampling, etc. So there are multiple porphyry centers here with only one drill. The deal, we purchased 49% from one of the prior owners in receivership. So this was a company that went into bankruptcy, and we bought this straight from the receiver for $220,000 in cash. The remaining 51% we have under option from Prosper Gold Corp for a total payment of shares of $1.25 million, 1.25 million shares, and $1.155 million of cash over a 2-year deal. There is a 2% NSR underlying this claim block, which is for the original optioners of the claim. Okay, the Hopper Porphyry Project. So the Hopper, we currently, our focus is currently on the Hopper. We're working it fairly hard. We have a drill that is currently turning and has been turning for several weeks now. This is another multi-porphyry target. It has proven metal endowment in Skarn. That Skarn mineralization has mostly been drilled. It exists over more than 1 kilometer in strike length, and it's adjacent to a proven porphyry target, but that porphyry is largely untested. It's permitted for drilling, road and trail building. It's a very convenient claim, if you will, to work because of the good trail and road network. And we have this under option from Strategic Metals for 70%. There is a hydroelectric dam located here, I believe, and so that there is hydroelectric power close to the claim. The Hopper intrusion is shown here in pink. This is what hosts the porphyry targets. Everything that does not contain a color here is unmapped. And the Skarn system that occurs on the periphery of the porphyry system and the intrusive complex is shown here in green and blue. Green shows garnet pyroxene skarns and blue shows marble skarns. I'll talk about that a little more in a sec. So here, these green areas are garnet pyroxene skarn, and this is marble skarn here. I'll get into that in a bit, in a second. This is under a 70% option from Strategic Metals, a well-known Yukon project generator, for 500,000 shares, $700,000 cash, of which $300,000 payable in shares, and a $5 million work commitment that is due by 2025. And all these, or the cash and the work commitment, are backloaded in that deal. We are currently drilling on this porphyry target here. So this image, this map shows you. Sorry, I keep forgetting that you cannot see my cursor here. This porphyry target is currently the one that we are drilling. You can see that most of the historical drilling has been in this copper castle skarn zone. That contains skarn mineralization over 1,350 meter strike length. There's an additional porphyry target here. And then there are two other good targets, one an endoskarn porphyry here and another skarn that you saw on the geologic map as well to the north here. So there are a lot of targets on this claim that deserve to be tested properly. The skarn is open to the south, west, east, and at depth, and we have identified 8 horizons, which are all less than 400 meters depth. The best mineralization occurs within the first 200 meters. The skarn mineralization contains copper, gold, silver, and locally molybdenum. Past drilling, again, was almost exclusively in the skarn. Yet we drilled the longest high-grade intercept in skarn in 2021 with 22.28 meters at 1.84% copper equivalent. This is a piece of drill core from that intercept. Now, there are likely more massive sulfide zones like this, and they tend to occur on the interface between the marble skarns and the garnet and pyroxene skarns. And so we're working to extend this zone. This is one of the shallower zones. This was from 55 meters. So really, it's always nice to have good mineralization that is very close to surface. And we are now using new tools to target that skarn. So one thing that we've noticed is that, of course, marble skarns are very common. Here you see a typical section of marble skarn. This normally doesn't really show much for the naked eye in visible light in order to use anything to use as target or a targeting tool. So what we've done now is we've set up a very good system for taking UV photos of this marble skarn that we can use to target accordingly. And you can see in the UV spectrum a lot more is visible from that marble. You can start using certain colors: green, blue, white, and reds in that marble skarn, and those can guide you towards the higher grade targets, such as this material. So we're currently rephotographing 8 kilometers of historical core, and we believe that will guide us towards more of the higher grade skarn zones in the deeper horizons as well. The porphyry potential, we've recently put out some news with a reassessment of historical core, where we found some, we did find some primary mineralization and some vein-controlled mineralization in historic core. Our thesis on this claim has always been, if we know we have good Skarn mineralization, we know that that is high grade and continuous enough to be a very nice to warrant further exploration. But if we can prove that there is an adjacent porphyry to that Skarn, then that may really lead to a world-class project here. And so in 2021, we tested the porphyry with one hole. We hit 160 meters of 0.21% copper, which was disseminated primary copper mineralization, true porphyry style mineralization in the low grade margin. We believe it mineralogically, it shows it's the low grade margin of a porphyry system. So we're currently we're looking to find the core of that porphyry system, which is it's a great base to start from this year, because of course it's much going from 0 to 1 is always harder than going from 1 to 2. And so knowing that there is a porphyry system on the claim makes it a lot easier to start vectoring towards a higher grade core. Now, the lower interval in this hole was diluted by unmineralized dike swarm, an unmineralized dike swarm that is, unfortunate, but it's common in large porphyry systems to have unmineralized dikes that are later stage. And historical core that we see here, you can see 3 photos of historical core. This is molybdenite, vein-controlled molybdenite mineralization, and here you see vein-controlled copper mineralization. That has recently yielded important alteration and mineralization vectors that we are now using to, in combination with what we are currently drilling, we are using that to retarget our drill holes. And here you can see, this is a very wide section, so keep in mind that you're not seeing anything in the, you're only seeing 2 dimensions here. But what this shows you is our interval of 160 meters at 0.21% copper, and what we found in a historic hole, which is nearly 75 meters of porphyry style mineralization as well. So, it's a very nice intersect to have, and we've sent it out for assay, of course, now. So the collars for the current program are partly revised using that data. We're currently drilling this target, and we expect to be here for quite a few more days, and results should hit the market in a month or 2. The developed analog for the Hopper is that we use is the Cadia deposit in New South Wales in Australia. The reason is that we believe this is a alkaline system. It's not your typical alkalic porphyry gold system that you would find in BC. It's alkaline, and so the alteration minerals are slightly different, the geophysical signature is slightly different, etc. But important to know for investors is that these systems can, they can be very big and host very substantial resources, just like their alkalic counterparts. So Cadia is 100% owned and operated by Newcrest. It contains multiple porphyry centers, such as Ridgeway and the Cadia Quarry, we've shown with the Hopper that there is a good porphyry target here, as well as closer to the center of the intrusive complex. There's a third potential porphyry target in the Mid-West zone here, and then just like the Cadia project, there are mineralized skarns adjacent to the main Cadia porphyry, which again what we see at the Hopper as well. Of course, the Cadia is an owned and operated mine, and it's much more developed than the Hopper. The Hopper does not contain a resource. But we see the geological environment, the structural architecture, the type of mineralization, we see that as being very similar to the Cadia. This is our current operation. We put some effort into building a good camp that would be able to sustain a larger operation as well. We've made sure that you know, there's a little more infrastructure on site now. This only has to be partly demobbed at the end of the season. Platforms can be reused, so it really makes our work a lot more efficient than in the past. A very well set up core shack, good lighting. That includes that UV photo booth that we're getting new data from. We've started early. There is some snow on site still, but it's nothing we can't deal with. The region here usually gets a few feet of snow every year. This year, it's been a very big snowpack, so that's something that we simply have to work with. But it's nothing that we can't work with. So this is close to the main porphyry target, and here you see a drill pad that will be used in the near future. Our growth platform here, as I said, we listed on February 2021 on the CSE. We've drilled the Hopper last year, drilled some of the best results to date. We financed in January $3.5 million, and we've recently acquired the Star project in BC, a proven porphyry system, great project. We're currently drilling at the Hopper. Both our claims are fully permitted. The Hopper road accessible, drilling in progress. The Star is also fully permitted. We're working on putting all the historical data together to work towards a comprehensive exploration program there as well. We have 30 million shares outstanding, and 52.5 million fully diluted. And I thank you for your interest.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. Yep, that was a great presentation. So now we'll turn to the Q&A portion of the webinar, and just a reminder to everybody on the line that you can type your questions into the chat box at any time. So we'll kick it off here. You know, just with you mentioned in the presentation with Star, like there isn't a resource there yet or anything. Do you kind of have a target kind of drill program that you have in mind to kind of kick off with once you finish that compilation work you just mentioned?
We're working on it. We do have some ideas on where we'd like to drill and how we'd like to proceed. I do think that you know, people, our past operators have focused purely on the Star target and maybe at the expense of the other targets on the claim. So a program for us would involve, you know, of course, it would involve drilling, but also things such as trenching, prospecting, etc., over the other targets. What we like to do is drill deeper holes on the Star to see how deep that porphyry mineralization really goes. The last drill program on the claim established roughly the tilt of the system. It's not a perfectly straight system like what we expect at the Hopper. This is tilted, and so knowing that tilt now, I think we could fairly accurately target deeper holes in the right orientation.
And that would be at the Star target?
Correct, yeah, that'd be at the Star target. So at the remaining there, you know, until we get some our own trenching results and verify some of the historical prospecting and trenching results on the other targets, we would not consider them drill ready. Okay.
Perfect. Okay, and then on the how about on the CSR front at Star? You know, how's the relationship, I guess, with local communities or indigenous groups, and you know, maybe talk a little bit about that for our viewers.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so the Star is located in Tahltan and Taku River Tlingit traditional territory. There are it's a sensitive area for a couple of reasons. One is heritage concerns for the Tahltan and Taku River Tlingit. So, and the other is that it's in the headwaters of an important salmon spawning habitat. So we have connected with both First Nations to let them know that, hey, we have acquired these claims, and we would like to work with your governments to ensure that that exploration happens in a way that we can honor all the interests in the area. The star has been worked for quite a few years until the convoluted ownership structure sort of halted the progress there. And so I think what's important to note as well is that the star is fully permitted, and that permit went through in 2020 after consultation with affected First Nations. So, it's, even though it hasn't been worked, the permitting process has taken place in 2020. And I guess to make a long story short, are there considerations? Yes. Is there anything that would be a permanent block on the project? No, we don't think so.
Right. Okay. So, kind of as we were discussing here with Star, you've got that permit. You're working with that outreach with the local communities and Indigenous groups, as well as doing kind of that compilation work and wanting to do that kind of preliminary kind of field work before you beef up the drill targets, essentially. What kind of timeline would you look at then to get to potential drilling at Star?
I think it's, we're flexible. We'd like to work it sooner rather than later, but we also want to make sure that it doesn't go at the expense of our exploration at the Hopper. And of course, we're working the Hopper pretty hard right now. It's at a discovery stage, we believe. And so, if our results are fantastic at the Hopper, and we end up scaling up our operations, I think that we'll probably try to be ready for our first Star exploration program later, so probably early next year. And if we decide, well, we've had some great drill holes at the Hopper, but we want to take it a little slower, and we need to think of our targets, wait for our assays, those kind of things, then we might pivot to work at the Star later this summer. So I think we have the flexibility, and we've had that built in to make sure that we can work either claim, but a lot, of course, predicated on drill results, as well as potentially having to go back to market for a Star program.
Okay. So yeah, we'll turn to Hopper now. With the success of last year's program, I guess, what was kind of the biggest takeaway in your evolution of understanding of the mineralizing system there? I guess, how is that playing out this year with your targeting?
Yeah. What we realized last year is that there are very high grade portions of the claim that have never been drilled, such as that hole 2101, where we hit 22 meters at 1.8% copper equivalent. We can see and infer from the geophysics that zone probably continues. So that is something that we're testing. With the way that the zonation in these skarns work, we think we might be able to find those higher grade zones at an increased depth too. So as far as the skarn goes, I would say we know we have mineralization over 1 kilometer in strike length. It is variable in grade, but we're getting a good handle on where to find what we want to find. And of course, the biggest leap in our thinking happened on the porphyry system, where we were, because there's many skarns known in BC where a causative intrusion is not really substantial enough, or is perhaps buried too deep, etc. And so what we've seen now, both from historical core and our last hole last year, is that, I mean, it's to us, the porphyry system is proven at this point, and it is very likely shallow enough that we can reach it, and the depth wouldn't scare anyone away, because we're seeing a propylitic zone. The propylitic zone is the outermost margin of a normal porphyry system. And that propylitic zone plus 0.21% copper in that propylitic zone means that we're pretty close to a center. Now, there's a couple additional thoughts to that. First, we're seeing 0.21% copper, which of course is low grade, but combined with it being in the propylitic zone, it's a very good sign. The other thing is that the vein density is actually quite low in that intersect. The alteration is almost somewhat limited. So to see that copper grade with that kind of alteration and with not that much veining yet is actually a really positive sign. So yeah, we're very excited for this porphyry target. The other that was a real leap from what nobody had drilled before us, and that's why we're following up on it. The other leap in thinking happened over the past few months when we started to really put together the zonation in the Skarn, and we started seeing that secondary porphyry target slightly to the north of Copper Castle. So there's a northern porphyry target, that's the one we drilled last year, and there's a southern porphyry target closer to the Skarn. That porphyry target closer to the Skarn, it contains molybdenite mineralization, which we found in historical core as well, in between these Skarn horizons. And one really important thing we found is that there is molybdenum in Skarn, which increases to the north towards the porphyry target. Now, things like copper and Skarn, they move through the system really easy. So you tend to find the higher grade copper farther away from your porphyry system. But molybdenum doesn't really, it's not mobile at all, really. So seeing molybdenum in a Skarn horizon means that you are very close to the causative intrusion. And what we're seeing is we're seeing molybdenum in Skarn, maybe one or two horizons, and in between that, a thin seam of granodiorite with molybdenite mineralization, so porphyry style mineralization. So it looks like we're really very close to that causative intrusion. Now, we started looking into the geophysics more, into the soils, etc. And what do we find relative to everything around it? There is a molybdenum in soil high, copper in soil high, gold in soil high. There is a potassium anomaly out in the radiometric data, and a subtle change in the magnetics as well. And so the target, it really holds up very nicely as a target. And we're going to be drilling that as well this year. So I think we've added a lot of value to the claim so far with the targeting we've done and the limited drilling, and we're hoping to capitalize on that this year.
Okay, and in terms of the program that's ongoing now, what's kind of the rough breakdown with the meters of drilling that you're kind of allocating to that, chasing that porphyry, and then also extending the known Skarn zones and kind of testing new things? Kind of what's the breakdown there?
We've started in the Skarn where we drilled I believe 800 meters or so. Don't quote me on it, but that order, we're currently in the porphyry, and we are going to be focused from now on the porphyry until we scale up, and then we go back to the Skarn. I mean, the Skarn, we know it's there, we know it's good. We have some work to do with UV photography on all the historic core to get to the best spots. But we think, again, this is the idea of building up a world-class project. We think that what's really going to move the needle for CAVU is the porphyry.
Great. Okay. And then is there any other work that's kind of in the works at Hopper, aside from the drilling and kind of all that, building up the knowledge on the core of the UV photography and everything? Is there any other kind of like sampling or other work that's underway?
Yeah, we're looking at, I mean, of course, there is more snow this year than we'd like, so that a lot of work wouldn't be happening until a little later, but we are looking at potentially doing some infill geophysics at further soil sampling, those kind of things, and that's really just to build up some targets that haven't seen that kind of work in that much detail yet. But I mean, main takeaway I'd say is that it's, the targets that we're drilling right now, they are truly drill ready and need to be tested. And there are probably 3 targets on the claim that haven't seen as much generative work as we'd like yet. But we have pretty good focus right now with those 2 porphyry targets and the known skarns.
Okay, and you mentioned seeing assays potentially in a month or 2. Is that kind of the turnaround that you're looking at there, considering you just finished the first Skarn holes not too long ago?
Yeah, the nice thing about starting before everybody else is that the labs are quiet, and so and that it gives us the best crews out there. So I think we'll be getting roughly a 3 to 4 week turnaround from the lab right now. We're seeing a lot of other drilling programs start up in the Yukon now, so it will, probably will become a longer turnaround in a month or 2. But so far, I think results will be turned around pretty quick.
Okay, great. And with that, I think we are just about out of questions. So maybe I'll leave it with you for a final word, or final pitch for investors, kind of the main thing to keep an eye on. So I'll give you the final word.
Thanks. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think we're working our claims or working the Hopper claim pretty hard, and we've got some really nice targets. It's in a region that is relatively underexplored for porphyry copper, but we have efficient crews out there. We're going to be generating results in the next month or 2. So I think keep following us and keep an eye on the news that comes out. And yeah, we're here for the big porphyry.
Perfect. So with that, we'll leave it there. And I'd like to thank Jaap from CAVU for taking the time today to host the webinar with Red Cloud Securities. And thank you to everybody on the line for tuning in with us.
Thank you.